are at what is called the Thompson Chain of Lakes today. It is along Highway 2. There are 18 lakes along a distance of about 25 miles. And they were named after a Scotsman named David Thompson, who I will talk quite a bit about later. What I find interesting is when I grew up in Idaho, and I don't remember seeing a single loon. We are at Loon Lake, and there are many loons who live along this chain of lakes. And in order to protect them, because I guess loons are very sensitive to being disturbed, so in order to protect them, they will put out floats that say no wake area. And the no wake area means you have to slow your boat down and not make any wake at all. You have to slow your boat down as much as possible in order to protect those loons. I think they're a gorgeous bird, and I love the sound they make. So I'm really excited because I finished my final Christmas gift knitting. I'm pretty happy about that. The pair of gloves, I did that Fruit Loop pattern again that I love so much. I did them for my pen pal Patty in Newfoundland, and I sent them to her for her birthday. They should be arriving any day now. I hope she likes those too. I love the yarn that I used for them. It was called Bluebell Woods. You know, if you've been watching this podcast, you know that the Fruit Loop gloves pattern is one of my favorites. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It's a little difficult to follow. For me, it was anyway. But I do have some extensive notes in my Ravelry project page if you're interested in that. Loon Lake is gorgeous right now. We have had some warm weather, so a lot of the snow has melted. Okay, different lake. We have walked to what is called Horseshoe Lake. This one's frozen over. It's a very, very small lake right behind me. It doesn't go very far. A lot of the lakes along here are smallish, and this is one of the smaller ones. So I said I wanted to talk about David Thompson, who these lakes are named after. He was born in 1770 in London, England. He was 2 years old when his father died, and because his family became so poor, he was sent to a school for underprivileged children when he was in England. At the age of 14, he graduated and entered a 7-year apprenticeship with the Hudson's Bay Company and set sail for North America. He spent his first few years in Canada working as a clerk, and at the age of 18 he broke his leg very badly, which forced him to spend 2 winters recuperating from that. And during that time he studied math, astronomy, and surveying. Also during that time he lost the sight in his right eye. At 24 years of age he was promoted to a surveyor position in the Hudson's Bay Company. He turned out to be quite the man, and we're going to continue with his life as we go along a few more of these lakes. He was quite the guy. So, another Christmas project finished. These are the pattern is called Foxhall gloves. The yarn is from Lolo Did It. It's called Walk Like an Egyptian. I made these for my cousin Francois. I have a French cousin. He lives in Toulouse, France. We visited him once 11 years ago. And I found out about my cousin Francois about 12 years ago. He contacted me after my mother died, and he found us through her obituary, which I thought was really interesting. So we shared a grandparent And he had done a lot of genealogical research. He's very good at it. Communication at first was a little rough because his English was not very good at the time and my French was pretty poor, but we managed, and we've been communicating ever since. And he has a lot of children who all seem to be great kids. So anyway, these gloves will be sent to Francois. His birthday is in January. I may hang on to them until his birthday. We really don't exchange Christmas gifts. Christmas cards, yes, but not usually Christmas gifts. But I think I might hang on to these until his birthday in January and send them for that. Anyway, I really like this pattern. What was nice was when I started knitting these, I didn't have any ends to I had almost no ends to weave in at the end. All that color work kind of you forget how many ends you have to weave in, and then when you go back to a one color project, you're like, oh wow, this what a difference. So that was really nice. But I hope he enjoys these gloves. I think they're a beautiful color. Yes, Lolo did it. Walk like an Egyptian. Hi, a new lake. This is called Crystal Lake. Kim and I have not been here before. It's very pretty. There's a lot of houses around here, and I can see why. It's a lovely, lovely little area. Yeah, again, this is one of the Thompson chain of lakes, Crystal Lake. And back to David Thompson. He, as I said, he got a job with the Hudson's Bay Company, and he worked for them for a few years as a trapper, but he got very fed up with their policy toward the indigenous people in Canada because the Hudson's Bay Company promoted alcohol quite a bit with their trading, and he saw what that was doing to the Native Americans, and he did not approve of that. So he quit them and went to work for their competition, the Northwest Company, where he got a job as a trader and a surveyor. At the age of 29, he married Charlotte Small. She was a 13-year-old daughter of a Scottish fur trader and an indigenous Cree mother. They had 13 children together, and they were married for 58 years. In 1804, at the age of 34, he was made a full partner of the company. And David Thompson really appreciated the Native Americans. They considered him a friend also because he treated them with respect and honesty. And even though he was a Christian, he respected their spiritual beliefs. He said, "The Cree believe that the earth is also a divinity and is alive. The forests, the ledges and hills of rock, the lakes and rivers all have something of spirit about them." And I have finished these miniature stockings for my friend Linda's Make-Along. Linda at Joey's Scarf Podcast is having this stocking Make-Along where we are making stockings and then we'll be filling them and trading them. So she has extended that cow or Mal, whichever she calls it, knit along, to November 19th. So you still have time to join that. It doesn't take too long to make a stocking. I've made these 3 because I thought they were kind of small, and besides they were fun to make. And but there's still plenty of time to join her make along if you feel like it. Check her out at the Joey Scarf Podcast and join in the fun. Hi. This is the Middle Thompson Lake of the chain of Thompson Lakes. Very pretty here. There's a nice little campground. So I wanted to continue talking about David Thompson. He did a lot of exploring. He was well known for his exploring, especially in Canada. He was exploring around the time of Lewis and Clark, and he was the first European to navigate the full length of the Columbia River. He was 41 years old at the time, and the year was 1811. Some of the maps he made of the Columbia River Basin were of such high quality and detail that they continued to be useful well into the mid-20th century, which is just astonishing to me. As I said, I've only done some online research about him. I have not read some of the books that have been written about him, but I probably will. One of the stories I remember reading online about him was, you have to remember, he had that broken leg that bothered him for the rest of his life, and he walked with a limp. He was blind in one eye. But when he was in his late 30s, he was exploring in northwest Montana. The snow was multiple feet deep. He was wading through the snow with his group of explorers, and what they had to eat on was a bison that had been killed by wolves. The men found it and started chewing on the bones. It's just incredible to me, the hardship that people went through in those days, just as explorers, just to find things, just out of curiosity, I guess. I find it really interesting. So another thing I got finished is this big red dog ear flap hat. This pattern is by Wendy at Baba Yaya. I made 3 of them, one for each of my grandchildren. They turned out very, very cute. It's a very inexpensive pattern. The most complicated part you probably need to know is how to either do a Turkish cast on or Judy's Magic cast on. Either one will work. And it was a fun pattern. I think I knit this up in about 2 days. I know it was like 2 days. Very simple. Also, speaking of Wendy and Linda at Joey's Scarf Podcast, we had a video chat together a few weeks ago, and it was really fun. We are in 3 different time zones, so there was a little bit of working out the time. But hi Linda, hi Wendy, and hi Sue. Linda's neighbor Sue also came over and joined in on our little video chat. It was really fun to talk to everybody in person and share some personal things. I really enjoyed it, and we have plans to do that again. So I'm looking forward to that. So one of the nice things about knitting podcasting is meeting new people and making new friends, clear across the country too. If you watched my last podcast, you know I made some of Wendy's Ulysses the Mouse pattern, and here's Frankie playing with a couple of them. All right, we started out at the westernmost lake of the Thompson chain of lakes, which was Loon Lake, and we have traveled back eastward, and this is Lake McGregor. It is the easternmost lake on the chain of lakes, and it is also the largest lake. So we'll finish up our story about David Thompson. He eventually retired, but at the age of 61 in 1831, he was deeply in debt and had to move in with his daughter and son-in-law. He also lost the sight in his other eye, so he was completely blind at this point. He was very poor. He died in 1857. He was 87 years old. His wife died just 3 months after him. 100 years after his death, Canada honored him with his image on a postage stamp, and the David Thompson Highway in Alberta was named in his honor, along with the David Thompson High School. He has been called the greatest land geographer that the world has produced. I thought what was interesting was I've been reading the Inspector Gamache mystery series by Louise Penny, which was recommended to me by the Crafty Toads podcast, and they actually talk about him. They mention him in one of their episodes because it included some cartography. So I thought that was really interesting that they would mention him. While we're at it, I would like to recommend a series of books I've been reading. It's the Joe Pickett series. It's by C.J. Box. It's a Western story about a forest ranger, and I find them very interesting. It's a mystery story, and I would highly recommend them. Things I have been working on. I started a pair of socks for my youngest grandson, Perry. These are the Dumbledore Christmas socks, and they've turned out pretty nicely. I based them on the size of his father's socks. I bought a little keepsake box for Perry, and I have some pictures ready to enter in there to get ordered and put in his little keepsake box from Grandma. You can look on some past podcasts of mine, and I talk about the keepsake boxes I like to have for my grandchildren. I also have been working on these lovely inline for pumpkin spice latte socks. I won this pattern from Sarah. Hi, Sarah, at Saltbox Knits podcast. And I love the pattern. It has a little cable down one side and then this lovely little pattern down the other, just down the front of the sock. I accidentally started the pattern after I finished my heel, and that was a mistake, but since they're for me, I don't mind it at all. The yarn is from Cappy at the Yarn and I, and it's called Janis Joplin's Car. Very pretty. I think it's it's a lovely yarn for this pattern. This pattern would go with a lot of different yarns, but when I saw it, I decided to go with this one, and I think it's really pretty. I like it a lot. So I ordered some more yarn to dye from Cappy at the Yarn and I. She has an Etsy shop called the Yarn and I. Hi, Cappy. And she sent along this gorgeous little pack of minis that she dyed. Aren't they lovely? They're really pretty. She also said that she is having some grab me some minis grab bag offer, $19 for the regular pack and $23 for the sparkle. She also said that she is offering a coupon code for 15% off of a purchase of $25 or more at her shop. The coupon code is Victoria Knits in all caps. She also sent this really sweet pot holder. She's carrying pot holder loops and looms. She says they're great for kids, but adults seem to love them even more. She said traditional 1-inch looms list for $17.95, and she has them for $15. And she says the Pro 10.5-inch loom lists for $29.95, but she's offering them for $27.50. She also has some 7-inch loops for 6 pot holders for $12.50 and 10.5 loops for 3 pot holders for $12.50. Assorted mix of colors. I'm not sure what all that is. I've never used a loom and I've never made a pot holder, but it all sounds like a great deal. I highly recommend you check out her Etsy shop. She always tries to offer some great deals for people. She's very fair and reasonable, and she has gorgeous yarn for sale at her Etsy shop. So it's been pretty much a full month since I podcast last. Yes, I've got a lot of knitting done because I had a lot of knitting time. So please don't feel bad about that. Yes, I have been knitting a lot. And I've never gotten on to the fade bandwagon. I don't even want to go into why not. It just never appealed to me. But I have bought my first fade pattern and I'm kind of excited to make it. It is called the Fast Fade Cowl by Molly Klein Designs, and it was a big $2 purchase. So I think I will make some faded cowls. I have a lot of leftover stock yarn, which I think would be perfect for that, and I hate to waste yarn, so I think that might be a good way to use it up. Another thing I've been working on, a friend of mine gave me a bunch of this yarn. Pink and white. It's nylon. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I just put it aside for a while. And then a different friend of mine said, I'm having a new grand niece. I think that's the word for it. Anyway. And she said, can you make me a baby blanket? Ah, perfect, right? So I've been working on this baby blanket for her. I've been using the diagonal stripe baby blanket pattern. Super, super easy. Great TV knitting. I can sit and do this while I watch TV. I almost have it finished. This should be plenty big enough for a newborn baby, and it's very pretty, very soft yarn. I'm using a size 10 needle on this. And then of course I couldn't stop there because, you know, somebody needs something for a baby. So I'm making her this little sweater for the baby also. This is called the 7-hour toddler sweater. I had this yarn. It's just the Simply Soft Karen. I'm gonna edge it with that yarn that matches the baby blanket. It just takes one button. It's a very easy pattern. If you've never knit a sweater before, I highly recommend starting with a baby sweater, either a cardigan or a pullover. It's a great way to knit a sweater and figure out how everything works on that. I know the first 3 sweaters I knit, I had help at the knitters group, the knitting group I was attending at the time. I had a lot of help there, and I felt like I needed a lot of help. I didn't know how to do short rows. I didn't know how to do Kitchener stitch. I wasn't sure about anything. So they really guided me through that, and sometimes that's just what you need. I was also thinking when I was reading all this info about David Thompson and how much he went through, all the hardships he had, and just in general the people back there, and it made me think about how I give, or what I do to give back. When Kim and I first moved up here, we spent a few months getting moved in and getting comfortable, and then we started looking around to see how we could get involved in the community. We wanted to meet some people, and we didn't want to do it by just going to the bar. So that's when I saw an advertisement for the haunted house being held at the fire station, and we volunteered to help out with that. We volunteered with that again this year. It was fun. It's some work. Kim put in a lot of work helping them put that together. And then we eventually joined the auxiliary, which helps to support our volunteer firefighters. And this year I took a position as a vice president on that. It sounds like a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's really simple. Another thing I did this year was started donating to Odd Man Inn. So I was just kind of wondering, is there something that you do to help your community or to help in general? I know a lot of people are doing, like Mary at the Cherry Pearls podcast does a lot of those little knitted hats for preemie babies. She's also been doing the knitted knockers, which is a nice way to donate. And I was just curious if there's anything you do or how you get involved with your community, or if you think it's important. So if you wanted to leave a comment about that on YouTube, I'd be interested to read what your thoughts are. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody that show notes will be in the drop down below the YouTube video, and in the Ravelry group, in my Ravelry group, Victoria Knits. And I just want to thank everybody for watching, for participating, for coming back and seeing me. If you're new, I hope I haven't driven you crazy with a lot of talk about history, but I find it really fascinating. So again, goodbye from Montana. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next month. This was taken earlier this fall. You can see the 3 baby deer in the front and our 3 chickens in the back. Who knew deer liked pumpkins so much? We certainly did not know.